Diana is my name. As a child, I was the princess of a palace that I could not comprehend. Despite having more money than other nations, my parents, may they rest in peace, made sure I understood the value of every dollar. Dad used to say, money talks, but wisdom listens, and Mom insisted that I understand budgeting before I could even spell. Before it wasn't, living in luxury was a dream come true. My fairy tale became a harsh, somber reality when their private plane crashed when I was 12. Grandma brought me in overnight. Our humble home was a great cry from the luxury I was accustomed to. It was a different type of existence, one in which love and care, rather than worldly possessions, were the luxury. Until I was 25, my inheritance was a far-off promise. So, with Grandma's help, I adjusted, gained knowledge, and flourished. My grounding and my getaway was college. Alex entered the picture at that point. He was a scholarship student with a golden heart and a wit that could cut through any facade, and he was as distant from my world as it could be. I was surprised by how well we clicked. The experience of bringing him home to meet Grandma was nerve-wracking. I had kept the money from him. Grandma had said, "Better he doesn't know, not yet," and I could see that she was right. Alex should love me for who I am, not how much money I make. With my guts in knots, I introduced them. "Grandma, this is Alex," I said. Alex said, "Nice to meet you, ma'am," and Grandma gave him a hearty handshake. Grandma said, "Sit, sit," her eyes sparkling as she observed Alex's apprehensive stance. "You're the young man who stole." Alex reddened, a sheepish smile spreading across his face, my granddaughter's heart. We sat down, and the talk went more smoothly than I could have imagined. I guess you could say that, ma'am," I said. Grandma told me tales about my parents and me when I was younger, memories that made Alex laugh and smile at me in a way that warmed my heart. Grandma replied, "You've got a good one here," gesturing at me while glancing at Alex. "She is influenced by her mother. She is compassionate and strong, but don't let her fool you. She also has a little mischievous streak." "I can see that," Alex said with a laugh as he squeezed my hand beneath the table. The rest of the evening was spent telling stories and laughing. Alex seemed to have always been a part of our world. I knew I had made the proper decision to include him in this phase of my life when he later assisted Grandma with the dishes. Later, as we were walking him out, Alex turned to face me gravely. "Your grandma's amazing, and hearing about your parents, your life, I feel like I understand you more." As I nodded, a knot started to develop in my throat. "Alex, I'm happy. I suppose there's more to me than meets the eye." Grinning, he drew me into an embrace. "I'm here for every layer of it. I care about you, regardless of what's in your money account." I gave him a stronger embrace in return than I had ever given him. I was aware of the gravity of the secret I was concealing, but I also knew I could trust him at that very moment. I prayed the delicate balance wouldn't topple over and spill. There was the type of stillness that is too dense to break on the voyage to Alex's parents' house. Alex's hands were clutching the driving wheel more tightly than normal, and I could see he was anxious. "You sure you're ready for this?" In an attempt to start a conversation, I inquired. "Yes, my mother alone can be a bit much. Please don't take anything she says personally." Alex tried to grin reassuringly, but his eyes fell short. As we drew up, the home seemed large and menacing. I felt my gut turn to knots. There was no going back now. This was it. Gloria, Alex's mother, entered the room just as we were about to leave. She assessed me in a way that made my skin crawl as her eyes fell on me like two laser beams. She continued, "So this is the girl you've been hiding," in a tone as icy as the Italian marble flooring. "Mom, this is." Gloria motioned Alex away before he could continue. "I am aware of her identity. Let's sit down. I made some tea." Unwilling to be disregarded, she led us into a living area that had more of the feel of a showroom. Gloria wasted no time in getting the tea. "I've heard that your grandma reared you," she added. It must have been quite the humble upbringing, with the term humble seeming more like an insult. I tried to maintain my composure by clenching my jaw. It was my grandmother, taught me valuable life lessons, not just idle chatter. A sneer twisted Gloria's lips. "I understand. Have your parents passed away too soon?" I listened. "It's terribly tragic. How does one manage without the right direction?" Alex, obviously uneasy, stepped in. "That's sufficient, Mom. Let's not." I interrupted, feeling a wave of rebellion. "No, it's okay, Alex," I said. "Yes, it was difficult, and my parents are no longer with us. However, I overcame it. Helped shape who I am." Gloria looked straight ahead as she sipped her drink. "Interesting. And my love, what about your future? Are you simply following in my son's footsteps, or do you have any plans?" It hurt. I inhaled deeply while remembering myself of my purpose. "I have plans, large ones, and I can do them without riding on anyone's coattails." Tension permeated the air. Bless him, Alex attempted to shift the conversation. "Mom, please don't do this. We're here to spend time together." With a deliberate gesture, Gloria put down her teacup. "I'm only attempting to comprehend the woman my kid has selected. A mother's concern for her child's future cannot be criticized." No one was winning the rhetorical tug of war that seemed to go on forever. Lily, Alex's sister, arrived just when I felt I could handle no more. Like her mother, she had an inquisitive yet critical look in her eyes. "You're the well-known girlfriend, and much has been said about you." "Not all good, I might add," Lily replied in a tone that was brimming with contempt. Alex got up just as I was ready to lash out. "That's sufficient, you two. We sincerely come here to share a little bit of our lives with you. Perhaps we should go if it is not something you can appreciate." To put it mildly, the remainder of the stay was uncomfortable. Every chuckle was a bit too loud, and conversations felt forced. However, Alex silently assured me that we were in this together by holding my hand beneath the table. I couldn't help but feel both relieved and frustrated as we departed. As soon as we got inside the car, Alex apologized. "They can be a bit intense." As I saw the house's lights dim in the rearview mirror, I let out a sigh. "It's not your fault, but man, your mom and sister. There's something else." Alex gave a kind of melancholy laugh. "They are indeed. However, we made it through, right?" I nodded, resting my head against the glass. "Survived and stronger." The stars were brilliant and the night sky was clear. It may have been a sign. There would always be a way out of any difficult situation. At our next unpleasant family gathering, the warning was delivered quickly and sharply, like a smack in the face. My future mother-in-law, Gloria, quickly established the law. She said, "If you two are serious about getting married, we're getting a prenup signed," staring at me as if I were defying her. I remained composed, shrugged, and said softly, "All right by me. Your son's money is not what I'm pursuing." Alex appeared to want to hide by crawling into a hole. He was full of promises and excuses when we left. "My mother will obstruct us." His eyes begged me to trust him as he whispered, "I swear we'll be happy." The wedding preparations went quite well, but the storm struck on the actual wedding day. After being sozzled beyond belief, Lily, the soon-to-be sister-in-law, thought it was time for a performance. She stumbled up in the midst of our reception, glass in hand, and muttered accusations loud enough for the people in the back row to hear. This individual is a gold digger, knows absolutely nothing about our type of living. Not literate, attempting to steal my brother's money. Various shenanigans followed, including harassing visitors and discussing various topics that are not appropriate in civilized society. My face flushed hot with embarrassment and rage. I took out my phone and dialed the police without hesitation. I wasn't going to let Lily's performance to go unnoticed, since this drama deserved an audience. Threats and accusations erupted in the aftermath. Gloria threatened to exact revenge on me for bringing shame to their family. "You have denigrated us. Because of you, the media will be thrilled by my daughter's antics." Alex struggled to be a mediator in a conflict when neutrality was not an option. His shoulders slumped beneath the stress of his family's turmoil, and I could see the anguish in his eyes as he tried to keep us afloat. But my determination hardened, and I maintained my ground. It was no longer just about me. It was about establishing boundaries, about not allowing my wealth, or lack thereof, to determine how I was treated. Alex and I sat amid the rubble of what should have been our happiest day as the dust settled and the night grew calm. He muttered, "I'm sorry," his voice laden with unshed tears. I never wanted any of this. Feeling the sharp edges of our new world, I grasped his hand. "We'll overcome this. However, things must alter, beginning with establishing limits with your family." Our commitment that evening went beyond simply remaining together. It was about standing up for the respect we were due and refusing to allow our past finances or resentments dictate our future. After 2 years of saying, "I do," those promises become more weighty every day. To be honest, I didn't miss Gloria at all, and she essentially disappeared from our life. But those years were characterized by more than simply her absence. The main thing that strained our relationship was Alex's shifting mindset. He would murmur unconvincing explanations about work when he arrived home, if at all. Once upon a time, our warmth turned into civility, and even that eventually chilled. One night, he shouted something I never expected to hear and tossed his jacket on the chair as if it had personally insulted him. That was the tipping point. I should have performed better, you know. Married a person who was more in my social circle and a little more sophisticated. His words stung like a slap. I stood there, gobsmacked, wanting to scream, to tell him about the fortune that was mine. But Grandma's voice echoed in my head, advising patience, to see Alex for who he truly was. So I swallowed the truth and the hurt, biting back. Tears. I thought, maybe, just maybe, if we had a child, it might bridge the gap between us, remind him of the love that brought us together. "Alex, don't you think it's time we thought about having a baby?" It could bring us closer, I ventured one evening, hoping to spark something of the man I fell in love with. His reaction was like a cold shower. "A baby now? Don't be ridiculous. We're not ready for that. Not by a long shot." That conversation shut me down. It wasn't just the refusal. It was the disdain, the way he made it clear that what I wanted, what I thought could save us, was nothing but a foolish fantasy. Days turned into weeks, and those weeks into months of silence, of living side by side, but not together. Each rude remark, every late night, added another brick to the wall between us. I confided in Grandma, poured my heart out over cups of tea that had gone cold before I could finish them. "He's not the man I married, Grandma. I don't know if he ever was." She listened, her eyes sad but understanding. "You can't make someone be who you want them to be, darling. Sometimes we see what we want to see until we can't ignore the truth any longer." Her words, though heavy, carried a sliver of relief. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't asking for too much. I just wanted a partner, someone who saw me as an equal, who respected me. But as the days passed, it became clearer that wasn't who Alex was, not anymore, if he ever had been. The idea of leaving crossed my mind more times than I cared to admit. But every time it did, I pushed it away, hoping against hope that something would change, that the man I loved would find his way back to me. The vibe was set for a killer party. I'd gone all out for Alex's birthday bash, hoping to bring back a spark into what had turned into a pretty mundane marriage. No expense was spared, and the guest list was a who's who of our closest pals. Notably missing from the invite list were Gloria and Lily, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Their drama was the last thing I needed ruining the night. Alex was in high spirits, soaking in the adoration and well wishes from everyone. For a moment, it felt like we were back in the honeymoon phase. Lots of laughter and inside jokes. But that bubble burst the second Gloria and Lily crashed the party. Uninvited but clearly expecting to be welcomed. Turns out, Alex had gone behind my back and invited them, hoping to avoid any family fallout. Their presence turned the atmosphere tense. Lily, in true form, made a beeline for the booze, dressed in an outfit that screamed, "Look at me," and not in a good way. Gloria's snide remarks flew under the radar, each one a veiled jab at me or our marriage. As the night wore on, Lily's antics escalated, fueled by champagne and a need to be the center of attention. She started a rant about me not fitting into their family, how I was unworthy of their name. It was a mess, and Alex was nowhere to be found, too busy playing the good son to notice the circus unfolding. The climax of the evening was when Lily, a few sheets to the wind, decided to air out some dirty laundry, waving around some documents. She slurred out insults, each word a knife. The spectacle ended with her stumbling into the pool, documents flying everywhere. Curious more than worried, I hurried over and collected the strewn papers. As I'd put together what they were, divorce papers signed by Alex, my heart fell. It felt like a stomach punch. Every indication is an act of treachery. As the situation's truth hit me, I stood there feeling numb. Without ever speaking to me, my husband, the guy I had sworn to be with for the rest of my life, decided that our adventure was ended. As I gripped the papers, Alex's signature staring up at me and confirming what I didn't want to believe, the party around me vanished into a haze. This was more than simply a memorable celebration. Everything I believed we had came to an end. In the middle of the confusion following the pool incident, I looked for clarification. As I walked up to Alex with the sopping wet paperwork that had inadvertently revealed a fact I wasn't expecting, my pulse was racing. "Alex, what's this about?" I pushed the divorce papers in his direction and demanded, my voice more forceful than my emotions. His mother interrupted him with a smugness that made my skin crawl before he could reply. "Oh my, it appears that your little plan didn't succeed. You're losing Alex. Did you think you could use a baby to trick him into paying you money?" I looked at Alex, trying to find any trace of the guy I married in his eyes, but he was unable to look me in the eye. His words were not as revealing as his silence. I signed the divorce papers resignedly. I no longer wanted to be a part of them. They were now only a formality, the last chapter of a book. Grandma arrived when the dust had cleared, her presence a soothing influence. Her eyes expressed volumes of understanding, empathy, and an unsaid encouragement that strengthened my determination without her having to utter a word. At that point, she made the decision to tell the truth to everyone in the room, not just to me. Grandma said, "She doesn't need any of your money," in a firm voice. "She will be 25 years old in a month and will receive a fortune that is unimaginable." She was brought up to prioritize people above material possessions and to look for real relationships over money. The weight of her words hung in the air, and the room became quiet. Gloria rapidly started to backtrack, her apologies as obvious as they were fake, her expression changing from smugness to astonishment to a desperate sort of greed. Alex also appeared abruptly ready to change the story, claiming that he was just motivated by his mother and that he never intended to harm me. However, it was too late. The curtain had been raised, exposing the harsh truth of our relationship and its underlying causes. I smiled quietly in response to their apologies, not out of forgiveness, but rather from an inner sense of serenity that came from realizing my value regardless of the fortune that lay ahead. I responded, "You've shown me your true colors," in a voice full of newly discovered strength. As for surprises, well, I've prepared another one for you. A loud honk fierced the tension outside at that same moment. A sleek high-end vehicle, the one I had surreptitiously purchased for Alex as a surprise, rolled up to the gate. I didn't miss the irony. As I excused myself and went outside to face the last act of this drama, I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. It was there, the pinnacle of luxury on four wheels, a representation of the love I believed we had for one another. But now it was just another character in the game of deceit and treachery. I climbed into the driver's seat without hesitation, the leather underneath me as chilly and uncompromising as my determination. Ever my pillar of support, Grandma accompanied me, her presence a quiet witness to the dignity and strength that were ingrained in our family. Alex and his mother were at the door, their faces a mixture of amazement and bewilderment, when I turned to face the home. I shouted to them, "Everything from now on goes through my lawyer," in a clear voice that had lost its warmth. Additionally, don't stress over my belongings. I'll arrange for a courier to come get it. Their formerly arrogant and confident looks now conveyed a sense of loss and realization, not just of the money they sought, but also of the person they had undervalued. I turned the key after that. With a lovely sound that promised freedom and fresh starts, the car's engine purred to life. Grandma and I exchanged a glance, a tacit understanding that this was the beginning of a future free from lying and manipulation. The air felt cleaner after the dramatic exits and revelations, as though the truth had not only exposed the dishonesty and greed, but also purified the way forward. The first test of my newly discovered resolution soon arrived, or rather, was called. With a harsh tone that cut like a dagger through the silence, the phone rang. It was Lily on the other end, her voice brimming with an unaccustomed tenderness. "Hey, I just wanted to make things right between us. I mean, we're pretty much the same age. We may become pals." I couldn't help but chuckle a little incredulously. This kind tone stood in sharp contrast to her typical contempt. Friends, the term seemed strange to me as I repeated it. "You mean like how friends don't badmouth each other at parties or try to humiliate them in front of everyone?" There was a lull, a period during which I thought I could hear the gears spinning in her mind as she tried to think of anything to say. Her attempt was feeble. "Well, you know, water under the bridge and all that," she said. "Water into the pool, you mean?" Unable to withstand the jab, I fired back. The ensuing stillness was revealing. My unwillingness to comply had obviously thrown her off balance. "Plan's fine, be that way," she yelled, her polite exterior dissolving. "You'll regret this." I was amused and sad at the same time as I hung up. It served as a sobering reminder of the masks individuals put on and the extent they would go to in order to avoid the repercussions of their behavior. A persistent notion in the back of my mind was the impulse to strike back. I shared a video of her falling into the pool on social media. Like wildfire, it went viral. It was liked by 1,000 people in an hour. My sister-in-law was well known on the internet. I blocked her when she tried to call and demanded that I remove it. Her phony charm and rude demeanor are over. My phone rang a week later, and it was a number I was all too familiar with. Gloria's voice was abnormally pleasant as she extended an olive branch that she hoped I would accept. "For Alex's sake, let's move forward from the past." As if the injuries were little abrasions that might be patched with a band-aid of words, she said, "Can't we make amends?" "No," I said, firmly but politely. My voice was one of firm tranquility, without anger. "Alex and I have different paths, but I wish him luck. I'm looking ahead, not behind me." Shortly after, Alex tried to get back together as well. I discovered a bunch of flowers at my door one morning, along with a letter that said, "I'm sorry, please come back." There was more rage than love at the sight of them. I threw them in the garbage without thinking twice. He continued to work hard after that. He attempted to pay me a visit, coming up without warning in the hopes of resolving the issue. But I had changed since he left. His presence, which had previously been consoling, now seemed invasive. One night, when he showed up again without invitation, I greeted him at the door with a steely determination. I said firmly and steadily, "I'm going to the police if you don't stop this. What has been done cannot be undone by your apologies. Really, Alex, it's over." At last he appeared to understand the seriousness of what I had said. His shoulders drooped, and he turned and left after giving it one more long glance. I didn't see him again after that. I immersed myself into charitable activity in the period that followed. It turned become my mission and passion. I found happiness I didn't realize I was lacking when I helped those who were genuinely in need and made connections with those who prioritized compassion before material possessions. Grandma and I had a peaceful routine while we lived together. We would sit down and decide on our next endeavor, our next means of changing the world. I came to the realization that this was my destiny during these times. I was realistic about what was ahead. I knew it would be full of joy, times of unrestrained bliss, and the type of love that nourishes the soul. But it would also be full of difficulties, maybe even heartbreak. I so spend my life with an eye toward the future rather than the past. I help, I hope, and I work. I have faith that in the future, I will discover true love, defined by a sincere connection rather than by material prosperity or social standing. Indeed, I will have the 3 lovely children of my dreams one day. But I'm happy for now. I'm creating a purposeful existence with love that doesn't demand anything in return. This marks the start of a brand new book, not merely the conclusion of a chapter. And it was written by me.